Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rock and Beards podcast, where typically we go through rock albums track by track and give the thoughts and opinions on every song, whatever strikes us. But this is a little pivot as I decided to run through every single one of Björk's albums and do the same kind of format, track by track, giving thoughts on each one. And today we will be talking about Homogenic. And I'm super excited to get into that. My name is Holden Stephan Roy. I will be the one guiding you through, my thoughts. And I look forward to seeing your thoughts up in the comment section below. So if you want to make that effort to put in a comment to, add your experiences with Björk, what inspired you about the project, just different things that that are particularly cool or interesting, I would love to hear them as you go along with this little journey with me. On that note, to show you how serious I am about the comments, I think it's cool to start everything off with my favorite comment on last week's video, which, it's kind of whenever video, but recently we did Missy Elliott's Super Duper Fly. And on that, Nomi Hagen, I think it's Hagen, if I said that wrong, I'm sorry. She said, "Love Missy, I'm ready to see your reviews about her work." And then followed that up with, during the Hit 'Em With the He music video, there was a Björk sample of the Joga song from Homogenic. I didn't actually look up how to say that. And I thought that was super freaking fascinating because that same day that I got that comment, I had just listened to both the Homogenic and the Super Duper Fly at the same time. I listened to those two albums back to back, and I thought it was super nifty that the universe can kind of flow just these things that are connected like that together, and just I don't know, it's just such a little trivial detail, but just the fact that of all the albums in the world, I ended up listening to those two back to back, and they're connected in such a way. I thought that was just truly fascinating. So either way, I wanted to share that with you. And if you have trivia like that, or just things that you want to share, I love learning, and I would love to hear it all. And y'all are way cooler than Google, because we can talk, and Google gives bad information sometimes. On that note, special thanks to the patrons in advance, Ismail Gadamsi, DJ Black Hurricane, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, Linda Williams. We'll talk a bit about that at the end of the video. On that note, I think it's about time to get into this, and we are going to be talking about Björk's Homogenic album today. So I like to start off the reviews kind of describing my connection to the artist, because, I think it's a super relevant thing. But this is the third one now in this series of going through Björk's reviews. So if this is the first one you're coming to, I'm going to go into a lot more details if you go check out the post review or the debut review, because I've done both of those. So moving forward, I'm going to kind of go through that. At this point, I have gone through those earlier albums, and I've come to really admire Björk's vision, I want to call it, because there's just this way she sees music that I think is super fascinating. If you look at music from the more mathematical front that it embodies, where you strip away the glamour and the gloss of the aesthetic of sound and look at the composition from a different point of view, I feel like you can kind of understand that Björk is able to take all of these regular rules and just kind of morph them into her own thing, so that when you reapply all that aesthetic and sound to it, it just comes off as this ethereal experience that is doing something different than what other people are doing. And I think that is really cool, to all of this time later have music that stands out as still feeling distinct, imaginative, passionate. And the way she writes in general, it's pretty timeless. She knows almost how to not date her music, because she's tapping into shit like core human emotion, which is pretty fucking universal. And I bet that if people 3,000 years ago heard a song Björk wrote about love, they relate to that shit, because she's tapping into that primal stuff, that reals, because she's super interested, from what you learn on the first couple of albums, in extreme amounts of passion, of emotional expression and stuff. But as I understand it, those first two albums were largely comprised of music that was kind of in progress before she had left Iceland to go to London. And this album, Homogenic, is basically the first album that she put together that we can say is basically new music. So this is the Björk that has kind of come out of the forge of living through the city for a couple of years and kind of developing her identity. You can almost say it's like I like to think of it a bit of a phoenix rising moment, like shedding off the old and embracing the power that is Björk, in a sense. So when I kind of picture how it would go, And so it's kind of cool. I kind of saw online a few people feel that this is like where her career truly starts because of that fact. Like she's really embracing it and it's all kind of like fresh and new. So either way, I thought it was a cool thing. As far as the album cover goes, she looks fucking cool. She apparently saw a model and wanted to recreate the picture, and she wants to embody the warrior of love. So she wants to show like the strength and the power of a warrior, but like using the weapon of love, I guess. And you see the strength because like she's got this giant Princess Leia like hair that's going on there, but it looks like also like a samurai, or what you would picture when you think of a warrior who would use something like more finesse, like who's gonna come in and maybe slice your head off, but they'll do a fefew backflips first because they're fucking crazy talented at what they do. They're not gonna be brute force with it. Like finesse is what I feel throughout the neck elongating necklace things to show almost like protection. Like her neck is not exposed. Like even if the rest of her is, like that part seems to be very protected, and then it's just this loose robe where it looks like A, she looks badass, and B, she can kick the shit out of you, but also with the look in her eyes, this fierceness, this like intensity, almost like a jaded kind of look. I like it. I think it's a powerful album cover that makes you curious, whereas like if you look at like debut and post, they have more of a innocent, almost humane approach to it. This is almost like a surreal look, as like like maybe like we're gonna go a less on like the more human side of things and more into the supernatural character that is Björk. I think it's cool. Like you almost just see the progression as she's like taking her throne in a sense on this thing. Another point I would like to make about just trivia, I guess I learned, is that part of this project is that she had been gone from Iceland for the longest stretch of time that she had ever been gone from Iceland. So she kind of wanted to take traditional Icelandic sounds, like the music of her home, and kind of get back in touch with that, but also take all the knowledge and skills she had acquired working with all of these pop producers to kind of create Icelandic pop, stuff that is true to form, but also understanding the macro level rules of what listeners around the world in a more pop sense want, because there is a lot of math and just structure that goes into what makes something, I guess, a little bit more marketable at a global scale. So I think it's super fascinating that Björk like went back home and does like this super culturally enriching thing. Or I don't know if she actually went back home, because I think she also recorded this in like a couple of locations, and like over the course of recording this, apparently that's when her stalker person passed away. In the really weird tangent I learned about actually just before recording this, some guy had been like mailing her and tried to take her out with like a bomb and shit. So she like kind of went through some shit in the middle of recording this. She was in Spain for a minute. She was in a couple of places, and I think that's crazy cool that she can just like end up going to Spain for 3 months to work on an album, end up in Iceland for a little while, and like, different songs kind of have the influence, I guess, of the different places they're from. But unlike the last project, where she wanted it to be a little bit slutty in terms of the musical choices, like taking from everything, not being very specific, in this one she kind of wanted to, as I understand it, take a more focused and like universal, more album-like approach, that I guess in a more conventional sense. I don't know a lot about Homogenic. It just kind of gets me to think sameness in a sense, like it's gonna be like, I don't know, I didn't actually think a lot about the title. It just kind of stands out because it's a word that you don't hear a lot, and it works in that regard. Perhaps I should have thought more about it. Still, I like the cover a lot more than I care about the title. It's more that this is just a way to identify this album for me. But now that I think about it, I mean, it's a cool idea to just kind of give you a top level view of what the album's gonna be about, and maybe just kind of some human universally shits. Anyway, I don't want to waste y'all time anymore talking about nothing, so let's talk about Hunter. So these drums have this frantic, almost militaristic pace to them. Like the snares are being like ran in like a marching band kind of style, but it's also like this hella cool, distinct rhythm that just kind of builds up and adds like this intensity to the song. And I think it's like almost the core of the emotion, because everything else is kind of calm. It's a little bit sparse. There's some strings that come in, but like the beginning of the song has like almost like her going like vocals as like the more melodic side of the beat, and just kind of the more rhythm section is what you're hearing some bass, and you're hearing like that drums as she kind of sings over herself. And then as the song builds up in emotion, you'll have some strings kind of come in, but still it's pretty much like those drums, that cadence of intensity that like brings it through. And I think that's key to kind of maybe understanding the emotional state of this song, which is not like thrilled. I don't feel like this is the happiest Björk you're gonna get on this project. She has determination though, and like she almost has like this sadness in her voice as she sings, like this realization of where her life has come to. And we'll get into what the song's about in a minute. I just wanted to cover these notes because I often forget when I do take notes on this kind of stuff. And let's just talk about the video real quick because I made the effort to watch it. She has some crazy face work. I don't know how else to describe it, but like you watch her face and the way she can just do these little drastic motions to like twitch her eyes or to just engage you is really powerful. A lot more than you would think in this little video where virtually not much is happening, but Björk kind of twitching around and some blue shit kind of pops off of her face and head, and she sort of turns into an animal for a little bit in the middle of the video, but it just kind of like flashes in. Like, I don't know, it's a really weird video that I'll probably never watch again, but I did enjoy looking at her eyes. They're very nice. They're a very cool color, and in general, I was so impressed by just her dynamic face skills. I don't know that many people can pull off a video like that just on the charisma that flows through them when they look at you with like their mischievous deviousness, which Björk does in this video. As far as this song goes, it's interesting. Lyrically, it's if travel is searching and home is what's been found, I'm not stopping. So you get the sense that she knows where she's from, because, we have like the anchor song and shit where she's figured out her home is Iceland and stuff, but like travel and seeking out the human experience is a very important part of this. So she's found home, but she still wants to, I guess, go out there and investigate the world, perhaps. But then you got the chorus, which kind of changes that a little bit emotionally to I'm going hunting, I'm the hunter, I'll bring back the goods, but I don't know when. And I think it's worth noting that if you think about famous people from Iceland, Björk's probably very high on your list of famous people from Iceland that you can think of. So, I mean, maybe it's just this weight on her shoulders of having to get up and go carry that like understanding, like she's powerful, she goes out there and she creates hype for her country. Maybe she increases tourism, maybe there's like literal fiscal and financial impact on Björk continuing to release albums for like her country. Like, I can imagine that there might be a little bit of pressure and stuff. Plus, once you become a little bit of a pop star and you're famous and you're known, there's this expectation to keep going. I mean, even on this very channel, we got 5 patrons. If like we miss an episode, somebody might hit me up and go, yo, I was kind of sad that the episode didn't come out. And it's a reminder that even though it's only 5 people, there's still this little expectation that you have to keep going almost regardless, because this is what it is. This is when you've taken on this kind of a life a little bit. I'm not trying to like compare my grind to Björk per se, but it's just what I thought of. And just this tone of, because like hunting's not like, I mean, sure, it can be a sport, but if you think about the act of it, it's going out there and taking over and representing her country and her homeworld, and maybe putting that effort into making Iceland known, because I can imagine in a pre-internet era there aren't a whole bunch of people doing this active effort to seek out Icelandic culture. So if Björk has kind of invaded the music scene and has this position where she's able to do it, she can kind of like drop in and let the people know. And then what I thought was super fascinating is then the bridge. I thought I could organize freedom. How Scandinavian of me. You sussed it out, didn't you? So it almost sounds like she came in with a plan on how she could use love or whatever to change the world and bring in her culture, and she has this whole plan. And then she has that how Scandinavian of me line where she kind of describes in an interview where this is not a compliment. She's Icelandic. They're not like the Scandinavians in the sense that they don't organize well. They're kind of free-flowing. It's more of a tribal sense of there's no real schedules and everything so flowy. So to kind of take such a logical approach of organization and control on maybe something so vague or ethereal as freedom is a silly idea, which may have taxed out the energy. Because when I hear you sussed it out, didn't you? I mean, my first thought is like, you fucked it up, right? Like this kind of went too far. But then you got to think of it. It's almost like she's scolding herself. Like, oh, you went about this the wrong way. You tried to like impose some shit. Nah, that's not proper. And then instead, what she's doing here is she's using her, like, because if you listen to that music, it's super distinct. Like, I don't know that I know a lot of Icelandic music. So if we think about originality in the sense of our exposure to something new makes it sound original, taking her culture and like doing cool shit with it so that I want to listen to it and it's not like too fucking weird. And she's singing about some kind of interesting shit. It's a really cool way to make me want to now go Google other Icelandic music. So in a sense, I think she accomplishes her goals in light of her intentions and all that. But so she's just taking this different approach is also maybe an organized assault, but also kind of a weird thing to do. Or maybe it's kind of reflecting on the past approach she took on how it wasn't the right things to do, and now she's ready to come on with a better effort. Either way, as I understand it, though, she kind of maybe wanted to take a break and felt that there was a lot of pressures to keep going and to keep producing music at this point. So you get that second verse where it's, you could smell it. You left me on my own to complete the mission. Now I'm leaving it all behind. So it's like there's like a sense of like she had a specific goal in mind and everyone else's goal, maybe like the support system wasn't in place. Maybe people were all there at the beginning. And like you see it a lot in hip hop where that little verse can be like correlated to a lot of people who have achieved success, who kind of think about how many people were involved when the mission starts versus how many people are at this tenure. I mean, she's now easily 4 or 5 years into her solo career, plus there was all the stuff with, I think it's the Sugar Cubes. So she's been like a prolific, like a musician for a very long time. She's been pursuing stuff for a super long time. And now I guess there's just this expectation for her to keep going. And what I think is cool is she ends it out with, I'm going hunting, I'm the hunter. She repeats it for a bit. And there was this, you just didn't know me. And then it's almost like people don't care about the real Björk. They just kind of expect her to keep doing what she's doing without consequence, without caring about the impact that it has on her, because it's not about her, it's about like the quality of the results. So that's what I took from that. I thought it was a super fascinating start to the project, a really great and enjoyable song. I gave it a 4.5 on 5. I can tell you that from this point on I was kind of excited for Homogenic. Like I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was excited. So that's 4 Björk albums I've reviewed now, and all 4 of them started off with some kind of a banger in its own regard that really hooks you and makes you want to keep going. The next one is Joga. I'm not really sure what it is. There's like a creative approach to percussion on this album, like definitely not standard drums, like this effect-driven experience as it runs through. The music video to this song is a little bit, it's one of those videos where technology did not, at the time, that probably looked next level hype, looks absolutely kind of ridiculous today when you're watching it. A good way to look at it is play like a game like Final Fantasy VII or any PlayStation 1 game and just take a look at how how what we once thought was fantastic graphicing is kind of lame looking back in the day. So in this video, you kind of get Björk on like a digital Björk lying on a beach or whatever, and I believe it's just kind of cruising around this camera shot of a digital Iceland as it's really jagged, and you see stuff like digitally the earth splits apart and there's digital lava flowing under it, and it's like, I like the intention of the video, but goodness gracious, is it not a video that has aged that well, in my opinion. And I'm glad I watched it, because it was like, wow, we have come a very long way in technology considering what I can produce in my room. And that video, I believe, shaved 2 minutes off the song, which probably had a lot which I think back in the day they would do that shit where they would make the video shorter simply because it costs a lot of money to create a video. And so if you do have a couple of minutes of maybe not so single friendly stuff going on, like a long outro or some ambient progressive stuff, which isn't so single friendly for radio play, you might want to shave that off, is the kind of stuff that was happening a lot in music history. Still, this one's kind of calmer, stringy, it flows in. Joga is apparently her, the title is dedicated to her friend Johanna Joga, I don't know how to say that name, I'm so sorry, who is somebody that she brings on tour with her. She's her masseuse, she's a person that helps her, and it's cool because I think that simultaneously this song is dedicated to this particular friend of hers who plays like a healing role. Like, think about what a massage, and she teaches her yoga. So Joe and Guz apparently yoga, because I wonder if it's just yoga the whole time and I'm sounding like a fool right now. Still, it's like the healing properties of this person's characteristics, but also simultaneously describing like her homeland and the healing properties that Iceland has on her spirit and soul and stuff, with this like super ambient feel to the whole song. There's a lot of sorry about that. There's a lot of kind of electronic effects that kind of reflect this a little bit of a dangerous feel to the song. In the verses, you have all these accidents that happen, follow the dot. So as I understand it, there's like volcanoes and all sorts of shit that can kind of like make living in Iceland a little bit of a dangerous experience, simply because, like Australia, shit's trying to kill you just by being there. But the idea of follow the dot, right? That's where like you would trace a line. So what we see as this random series of circumstances, even natural disasters per se, is really this bigger plan to achieve the ultimate form of what Iceland is to become, and the people who live in that environment almost revel in the metamorphosis that takes place over time. Coincidence makes sense only with you. You don't have to speak, I feel. And so in a sense, we can feel this connection. So if you think about it from the perspective of both her homeland and her friend, this entire thing kind of makes sense. So the weird circumstances in her life that take place while she's cruising with her friend, or the way Iceland kind of metamorphizes. And I think it's cool the way that Björk is able to write these songs to multiple circumstances at once, which then allows you to invoke your own personal experiences and meanings and attach it to them, because already it's written in almost a double entendre kind of way. Emotional landscapes, they puzzle me. The riddle gets solved and you push me up to this state of emergency. How beautiful to be. State of emergency is where I want to be. And that's a crazy amount of interesting shit. So as an artist, you're probably more on the emotional side, is an assumption one can make. But at the same time, emotional landscapes are a confusing thing. Like, so many of us just spend our whole life trying to figure out the human puzzle and just try to understand why people are the complicated mess of emotions that we are, why we all do the things that we do. And then it's almost like when you're in the right environment and with the right people, you kind of get this sense of clarity, which pushes you and kind of it makes you excel to a state of emergency, which at first sounds kind of wonky. But if you think about it from the perspective of somebody that lives in a place where a state of emergency might be a regular thing, this is a beautiful sense of living. This is home to her. Now, if you think about life, a state of emergency will often allow you to excel and push beyond your regular things. So we had a personal family issue that took place a year and a half ago or so, and it really changed my perspective and almost fueled me to figure out a lot of things and to almost be less lazy and get more focused and to figure it out. So through the various chaoses in my life, I can relate to the fact that having my brain in a state of emergency, feeling a certain degree of franticness, that chaotic energy, it allows me to thrive, and I kind of really thought that was cool. It is also where I want to be. I mean, let's be real. When things are running hyper smooth and everything's going according to plan and everything just feels routine, it's so boring to me. So I love the fact that, like, my life in a sense is this constant perplexing situation where I keep trying to figure out how to achieve something next, but then when I get there, you almost have to create a new state of emergency just to keep pushing it. And I like the second verse. All that no one sees, you see what's inside of me. Every nerve that hurts, you heal deep inside of me. You don't have to speak, I feel. And that's a crazy cool part, because it's like really directly shouting out to her homegirl who is literally healing with the powers of massage through the nerves and shit. So it's very direct. But you can take the same thing and apply it to like literally anything in your life that grounds you. Like lately, I have been finding great solace in playing games like Witcher 3 and cruising these universes and running through it. It calms me and it makes me feel less stressed in life. So I'm just saying, like, it is about what she wrote about, but the fact that you can take those same things and apply them to anything in your life is truly excellent in terms of creating longevity in a song. And she kind of repeats herself for a while, and she says, I don't know. She says some alt sim hand Sarah thing. I'm not really sure what she means, but it flows out for a while in this outro, which is super ambient, and you just kind of get lost in the flow of this song. And it's over 5 minutes, which is a significant length, but you never feel bored. You just feel like it's this big experience that you're going on. So I gave it a 4.7 on 5. I really, really enjoyed listening to it. On that note, let's move on to the song Unravel. So apparently, Unravel by Björk is Tom York from Radiohead's absolute favorite song, which explains maybe why I'm not the biggest fan of this song on this album. I'm gonna get into it, I promise. I still admire Björk's creativity, the passion. It's all good, but the sound of it is something I find less appealing than the previous two. I'm also not a huge fan of Radiohead. So I was like, okay, that's cool to know that at least there's some like continuity in all of these different things I mentioned. Still, this song is pretty good as far as fitting the album. So if we look at, like, there's almost a bit of a story going on. She's out there, she's feeling like an emotional warrior. She has her solace where she can now get her respite and recover and build. And then we flow into maybe some of the more focus of the album with Unravel. So continuing the emotional journey, she has some gibberish, which kind of feels some frustration and some tension. There's like this kind of hissing sound that goes on inside of the beginning part of this song before she starts singing. And then she's kind of missing somebody. While you are away, my heart comes undone, slowly unravels in a ball of yarn. And if we watch the music video, for the first minute, it's just these stringy things. And I swear, for about 30 seconds, I was sitting there watching this going, am I watching some like fan-made video or just like a person? Like, is this the real video? And then about a minute in change in, you see that it's all flowing out of Björk, and then it's like her heart that's pulling it, and it's kind of dramatic, and it's like all of her emotions being sucked away because her heart is coming undone in a ball of yarns, while the devil collects it with a grin, our love in a ball of yarn. So what we can unpackage from all this is, if we think about like maybe her home or a love or kind of anything she's feeling connected to, she goes away for a while and then she feels like this longing for it. Now, there is that saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And if you've ever been in a situation where you live with your partner and you go away for a little while, and then we're talking like 3 or 4 days after living together all the time, I can tell you that those moments when your partner and you arrive again together are quite extra feisty and connected, if you catch my drift, compared to the regular, just because of that distance creating it. Like, one time I was in Pakistan for a month through work, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and honestly, like, it was a big deal. Like, when you came back, like, a whole month of your life, experiences change you, all sorts of shit. So when you get to this chorus that goes, he'll return it, so when you come back, we'll have to make new love. That was so interesting to me, because of course we're talking about getting it on and banging. Like, that's definitely what we're talking about. You go away for a month, one of the first things you're going to do is smash, because especially if you are a well-behaved person over that period of time, you are pent up and you gotta let it out. That's just proper. And the intensity of it all, it'll feel like making love when it's all new and exciting, because, you know, as time goes on, it's not quite like the first few months of doing it when everything's crazy. It's more of that there's a difference between in lust sex and I'm in love with you for years sex. It's just a little bit different. Not saying anything, it's just not the same intensities and stuff. However, I miss you sex is hella good. It's just right up there with new love. So I totally get where she's coming from. But when you add in the extra element of life experiences kind of changing people, it's entirely possible that over the course of a couple of months even, let's say Björk goes on a tour or this person goes away for a project, by the time you get back, you could have had some crazy experiences that completely reformat you. Like, I went to Israel for 2 weeks during July 2014, which was an interesting time to be in that country, and just I had some experiences that completely evolved the character of who I was as a person. I can assure you that just the person I would have been dating before I went on that trip and after that trip, it wasn't the same person, you know. And then Pakistan kind of had a similar impact on me. It was like seeing the third world for the first time, working with these people, getting a perspective so different than the Montreal-based life I have, evolves you. And then you come back to your partner, and it is like trying to find a new connection point with that person. And in this case, 6 months later, or not even, like 3-4 months later, we broke up. It was like that significant. It wasn't quite a happy ending, my little story there, but when I thought about what happens here over this process, it really is almost like this test of your love. Anytime there's real distance, where the devil is going to come and put this super big strain on it and will steal what was previously there. And then in those moments where you reconnect, you have to put that effort in to almost reforge your relationship, which is crazy when you think about it. Well, maybe not crazy. Maybe it's what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's what keeps love interesting, because fundamentally, love is a choice that we make, in my opinion. Like, I choose to put the effort in to make sure that me and my lady have a significantly proper relationship. It's not an easy thing. Like, you actively work at it, and then it becomes a thing. But maybe priorities can shift over that time. So anyway, the fact that, like, I could think of all this shit was super fucking cool. But all things considered, it's very calmer, it's slower, it's like a softer song, and I really just did not like it quite as much. I still respect it and still think it's extremely well made, and it has the same degree of subtle composition where things will trickle in and out and effects and things to make sure that it's not a boring experience. But yeah, this one's not really as much my cup of tea, which is totally fine. Let's talk about Bachelorette. I didn't really catch this, but apparently the beat's kind of train-like in its sound, but you can kind of hear that train-like repetitiveness of, like, the wheels hitting the tracks and that particular sound it generates. But this is apparently kind of a return to the Isabel character, and it also features lyrics from the SJON poet guy, who also helped on Joga, because she was struggling on that one. Apparently it was too emotional and she was being too corny, being like, I love her and love, 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 and she didn't like it. So she brought in the poet homie, and the poet homie helped out. And since the poet homie helped on the Isabel song, the poet homie came and helped on this one. And honestly, I didn't really catch it at first, but when you hear the flow and the prose of the lyrics, you totally see the connection. And even the overall vibe of the music of this song really connects to the same kind of ethereal grandioseness of the Isabel song. So I thought that was super cool. So I'm glad I'm reviewing these in order so I can appreciate moments like that. where she's like, I'm a fountain of blood in the shape of a girl. You're the bird of the brim hypnotized by the world. Now that's cool. So she's a passionate lady, all emotions and extreme and shit. And bird of the brim hypnotized by the world. That kind of makes me think of a person on the grind who's super business oriented, maybe not passion oriented, just focused, pursuing, busy. You know the type of person I'm talking about. And then Björk, with her emotional connection desires, as we know from her past music, drink me, make me feel real, wet your beak in my stream, game we're playing is life, love's a two-way dream. So she wants this person who's so passionate and so intensely invested in all these things to focus on her and to give her that thing to satisfy her, because that's what makes her feel engaged and alive. And she comments how love's a two-way dream at the beginning, because in life, you know, it's a complicated situation, but in order for love to work, it's a mutual effort. And then, you know, it flows into this chorus where it's like, leave me now, return tonight, tide will show you the way. If you forget my name, you will go astray like a killer whale trapped in a bay. I'm like, only fucking Björk can somehow throw a killer whale being trapped in a bay, which is a sad fucking thing to think about. Like a orca just sitting there like Free Willy and shit. Only Björk could really pull that out of nowhere and just all of a sudden a killer whale is on your mind. And that's really cool, actually, because we should be thinking about stuff like the whale situations and plastics in the oceans and shit a hell of a lot more. But still, it's just like so random, but also a pretty aptly metaphor for the situation, because let's say you take into context the last song, because Unravel shows maybe the feelings of not being around somebody, right? And what is kind of going to have to happen when you reconnect. And so I do believe that there's almost a flow of these songs conceptually together. And in this case, we look at her as she's explained kind of the benefit or the situation and the facts that come from separation. And then you have this chorus, which is like, fine, maybe in this moment, I'm not, whatever, this is the situation, I'm explaining to you what I want. And then we're going to go our separate ways. And then either you're going to find the right way back to me, or you're going to go the wrong way, like when a killer whale chooses the wrong direction and gets trapped in a bay, which is toxic and probably going to kill that motherfucker. So Björk will save you in your life, and not having Björk is bad for you. I mean, that's some dope-ass fucking shit, because it's just so out there, but conceptually it all really works and fits. Like, I believe that is what we call style, people. That is a style thing that only a Björk could really pull off. We get a complete tone change in verse 2. I'm a path of cinders burning under your feet. You're the one who walks on me. I'm your one-way street. So now we get the sense that this person basically takes advantage of Björk, and I don't mean it like take advantage, but Björk wants their mutual affection, wants this connection with this person. And it seems like this person's only willing to give Björk their affection or their time or their desire when it's convenient for them, and it's always on their beck and call. They're not offering love per se, they're just taking from Björk in that moment. I'm a whisper in the water, secret for you to hear. You're the one who grows distance when I beckon you near. So as she's trying to like pull them closer and maybe bridge and create this communication and this closeness together with them, they, on the other hand, are in a sense pulling away, and just, you know, it's almost like you can picture it like they're calling Björk over to fuck, but like they don't want to do all the extra shit that comes through it, or they want to have the superficial relationships and take the pictures and to go through all the motions because it's good for the career move, but when it comes time to like deal with the problems and to handle the hard parts of it, everybody dips out. Or, you know, like, well, we can do this on the low, and you can picture all these almost suspicious circumstances of relationships that happen where Björk's almost like hoping for a better moment, but it just doesn't happen. And then we really see in the last verse another kind of like twist on it all. Like, I'm a tree that grows hearts, one for each that you take. You're the intruder's hand, I'm the branch that you break. So you can see that it's almost like she keeps growing her love intensity over time, or anything that happens, she's always able to come up with another heart or do something else, or to keep offering love. Or if you think about it in like a video game, it's like she's donating her life force to this person, and hearts makes me think of Zelda. But then when she reflects on this, she realizes that this person's taken all these hearts but really shouldn't have, because at the end of the time they weren't like worth it, so they're a bit of an intruder. And then one day it's just, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it's the branch that is broken now, because it used to be something that was giving out hearts, but now she's feeling a little bit burnt out and left out. This shit's like a 5-minute song, and it's absolutely fucking stellar. So I gave it a 5 on 5 before I watched the music video. And then I watched the music video, and I was told I should probably keep watching the music videos, because as much as this song is totally probably about a dude or a girl or whoever Björk's into, I'm not really sure about her sexuality. I don't care that much about that stuff. I mean, people can do them. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not my business. This video is fucking next level. So it starts out and she kind of like paraphrases her life and her career. Instead of being a musician, she's an author. So she's like, she finds this book and it just kind of writes itself, which is probably how her early music felt. And then she goes and she takes a train, and then she goes in and she meets the book publisher guy, and then she proceeds to get her book published, and it gets put out and everybody's loving it. So then it migrates into the live performance of this story of her life, which is kind of maybe how she feels her music has become. And then you watch her recreate what you just saw in like the first minute of the video on a stage performance and stuff. And then as it keeps going and going, you can see how like the executive loses interest over time and moves on, and just kind of like leaves her feeling high and dry, and like the story is almost pointless, and it was all like a kind of a waste of time. And then I realized she's totally taking shots at the music industry and the way that they're treating her. Like, oh, you're only as valuable as you can keep coming up with new and interesting shit. Like, she like took her whole life story and put it out and gave it to you, and everybody loved it. But when it was no longer the hot shit, if you can't keep making new versions of your life story, we're going to discard you, we're going to get rid of you. And I thought it was super cool, because then when you rethink about this whole relationship, it's like Björk went into music open-heartedly and shit, and then it was a very much, probably like everyone in corporate America, one-way street, where the labels probably took a little bit more than they gave and shit like that. And I thought that was a super cool extra layer that I don't think I would have thought about had it not been for this video to really lay it home in a really cool and creative way. So it definitely just reinforced my 5 on 5, and it's one of those few music videos I think I'm really happy I ended up watching. Anyway, the next track on this project is called All Neon Like. Distortion. Apparently, this song is made up of snippets of a Björk poem called Techno Prayer. I did not read the full poem. I just listened to the song, and I thought it was a very, very interesting track, because I again found a way to relate to it in a personal way. So if we look at this song, not till your halo all over me, I'll come over, not till it shimmers around your skull, I'll be yours. So in a sense, it's like she sees this person, and when their purity is right or whatever, and you get the sense of the halo over them, but it also could be like the moonlight kind of shining down and creating a halo, or it could just be kind of, maybe when the person is in the right state of mind, where they're like open and their intentions are pure, so Björk can work her magic. She'll be there. She'll be that person for you. So that supportive role, in a sense. I weave for you the marvelous web, glow in the dark threads, all neon like. So you just kind of picture her sitting there, and then I feel like she's controlling the energy of a situation. So I dated this girl. I totally believe she could manipulate the energy of a situation in a way that we'll get into. And she would say stuff like this sincerely, but like there's definitely something to it. I mean, I was maybe a little bit skeptical when I was younger, but maybe there are people who are so in touch with the world and the energies of the planet that they can do stuff like take the negative flows and twist them in a way where they're not negative anymore. Like, it might be a stretch of the imagination, it might sound a little bit weird, but I totally believe shit like that is possible, and I bet that these people see it in a sense where it's like these glow-in-the-dark threads, all neon-like, and that's what I picture. So then the cocoon surrounds you, embraces all, so you can sleep fetus style. And then I kind of just picture her being the big spoon with some dude that's bigger than her. Like, she's like, I don't know, 5'5" or so. And then, I don't know, maybe he's like 6'2", and she's just like holding this guy, and he's all being, because like, us dudes, we can be a little bit hard on ourselves in a sense where we turn into big baby la-las and we're just mopey and shit. And you know, when somebody comes and, you know, takes care of us and makes us feel special, we get our shit together for a bit until we act like giant children again. So, you know, I could just picture this guy feeling like it was a hard day and broken and going through some shit, and then Björk's using her magical energies of positivity and proper shit to, like, almost through osmosis migrate that shit to him through being a cuddling situation. And, you know, the song kind of flows from there, and she's just going to, like, help them up. And, like, you just feel like she's going to attack and almost surgically remove the darkness from this person. And then it just kind of ends with, don't get angry with yourself. Don't get angry with yourself. And repeats that, and then it says, I'll heal you. I'll heal you. And she had, and you're just like, it's almost like talking to somebody you care about who you see going through some hard times, where you can see that all they need to do is kind of understand that they need to forgive themselves and move on and embrace more love and positivity in their life. And it all sounds so fluffy when you say it out loud and shit, but almost all of us have done some dark shit. Almost all of us have gone through some shit at this point because we're not in the nicest world. So when you start to understand power of perspective and things like that, you can realize that sometimes having somebody who has that such a powerfully positive energy, they can like transfer that into you and almost give you a taste of it. And if you allow yourself to let it wash over you in a sense, and you embrace it, you can be healed. And a lot of us are just hurting, which means we're just kind of hurt and broken. So being healed is a cool thing, all things considered. I don't know, I thought it was super deep and super interesting, and it was a super cool song to listen to. So I gave it a 4.75. It's really good. The next one is 5 Years. So if we take a look at how this song flows, if we look at how the album flows from like the love narrative, you have Björk being forced to travel and roam and to be away from people. And then we understand that like being away from people can lead to a point where, you know, you kind of have problems. We have to almost keep fighting to reinvent the love and to prioritize it and to focus on it. And then she's gone through some kind of situation where she's feeling like she's giving all of her love and maybe she's not receiving it back quite with the same fortitude. And then we see that she's almost upping her efforts and all neon like to like show, look, if you really just stop fighting this shit, I can be the savior and the solution that you're looking for. Just kind of like submit to it. Let me do what I do so that we can achieve this next great thing. And then it almost feels like it culminates to this explosive moment where Björk puts her foot down and is like, you know what? Fuck that shit. In the first verse, you think you're denying me of something. Well, I've got plenty. You're the one who's missing out, but you won't notice until after 5 years. If you'll live that long, you'll wake up all loveless. So it's almost like you get the sense that whoever her partner is or was, or maybe it's multiple people, they are almost playing it like, yo, listen, you're just a little prima donna. I'm the shit. You think you think I can't get better than you. You need me more than I need you. And Björk is like, yo, you think that you have all this shit, but you're missing out on like this key thing that I can give you that you can't get anywhere else, and you're not noticing it. And in 5 years, you're gonna wake up one day and realize, oh fuck, I made a mistake. And I thought that was truly interesting. Like, she's just kind of like, this is like her saying, like, this is how I feel today. You're a fucking waste, and you're not gonna know what's going on until it's too late. And the 5-year point is an interesting thing, because it's almost like this person's going to go ahead and accomplish their 5-year plan, which is what highly effective people tend to focus on, these 5-year stints, and wake up and look around and recalculate, did I achieve that shit, and only realize then, oh fuck, there's this vacancy in my life that I can't actually deal with. And then in the verse 2, the song starts to take on a more challenging tone. Like she's fucking mad. Like she's challenging this person to be honest with their emotions. I dare you to take me on. I dare you to show me your palms. I'm so bored with cowards. They say they want what they can't handle. So all these guys or people in her life that claim they want the relationship and claim they want the family and claim they want the real shit, when it comes down to handling proper emotional problems or to actually doing what needs to be done, they just kind of bail out and run away and aren't actually present. And you see that kind of flow through, and she goes, you just can't handle love. That's like the kind of chorus of the song. You can't handle love. It's obvious. You can't handle it, What's so scary about love? Not a threat in sight. You just can't handle it. Like, it's just blunt. It's to the point. She's just saying, like, you're a fucking coward. I'm not interested in. It's almost like Björk has reached an age where she's like, I'm tired of dating boys. I want like real men. I want people who can do the grown-up thing. I want people who aren't gonna talk the talk and be all flossy and look really good in the magazines. But when it comes down to actually building a life and being a partner and to move forward, or to even conceive a 5-year plan with something, requires that communal like goals and efforts, and probably a hell of a lot of love and shit. So I was super kind of fascinated by this one. It sounds really great. It's got like, it's just a really strong song. There's like this scratching DJ sound, like it sounds like a DJ on turntables scratching records that make up the percussion of this particular song, which I totally loved right away, and I thought really drove it forward. And again, it's a distinct and interesting musical experience, as you can feel like more of her energy leaning less away from like compassion and more towards this almost aggressive energy, like she's fucking lashing back. Anyway, the story, in my opinion, totally continues on the next song, which is called Immature, and I did the Mark Bell's version. Mark Bell's. Well, this song does not have quite as many lyrics as some of the others, and it's the shortest song on the album, coming in at just over 3 minutes. It has a lot of emotional power to it. So lyrically, it's pretty straightforward. How could I be so immature to think he could replace the missing elements in me? How extremely lazy of me. How could I be so, and then she repeats that, and then just kind of, how could I be so immature, I mean. And it's pretty interesting. So I've had a few relationships in my life, they've ended, and then you have this like rebounding reflection period. And it looks like in this case, because 5 years is kind of sounds like a little bit of a breakup, or I'm ending this unhealthy situation in my life. And then we're getting this other side of it where Björk's reflecting and realizing that even this like desire to have somebody else complete them, or to require somebody else's love in such a way, like there is some deficiency or inadequacy inside of herself that prevents her from being whole in the person she's trying to be, is stupid. And what I thought was most striking is how she calls it lazy. Like, instead of trying to work on herself and achieve and like figure out how to become a strong and independent person, she has taken the easy or lazy way through this by finding love in relationships and using maybe other people to fill some void in her life. And the idea that doing that is the lazy route, the easy way out, is a fascinating thing in this millennial era of serial dating and nobody really understanding how to be alone or anything. Because let's say millennials do not have a good handle on relationships. They really don't understand how to be alone is a fair thing. And millennials are now aged 20 to 38. So that's a weird age group to not fully understand independence, alone, and dating. So just to hear that now, understanding the world we're in, knowing this came out literally 22 years ago, It's crazy just to see the timeless and almost predictive, or like the predictive nature of this advice Björk is offering us all. Like, yo, it's immature to think that somebody else can complete you. It's lazy to think you need somebody else to be a full person. That's a really cool message. That's a really interesting message. And the music is really calm, and it just kind of flows through in this little vibe. And like, you can feel her passion and shit. Like, she almost screams and all that other shit, but the way the mixing and stuff works, it's not that shrieky stuff that I'm certain I've heard some people are not a fan of her shriek, because I've been talking about Björk a little bit more often in my life. I like her shriek. So it feels like a subdued, shrieky scream going on here, which still adds some passion. You can still feel all the energy in her song. Like, she's just so mad at herself for like wasting her fucking time with this dude when that's not even the right thing to be doing. Or dudes or people. I don't know. Anyway, next track on the album is called Alarm. Oh, did I give it a grade? If I didn't, it's 4.75. We'll just keep going. Next track's an alarm call. I really like the almost beatboxy hip hop feel of like the actual drum patterns used on this song. It's got this great feel to it that just makes you want to bop your head and kind of vibe. This feels like the poppest shit on the album, in my opinion. Like, if there was a song that was trying to be a single, I would say it would be this one. Not to say that she's that kind of artist, but apparently it was very much inspired by Michael Jackson. So it could just be by sheer coincidence of the effort she put into showing some love to somebody that inspired her. She ended up making something that sounded pop, because who is Michael but the king of pop? Anyway, it's a really fluffier kind of message, in my opinion. She's walked the earth and watched people. It doesn't scare her at all. I can be sincere and say I like them. It doesn't scare her at all. So she's been out and about, and she can admit that she can like people, and that it's a choice that we have, and that in cowardice maybe we choose to not like people. But she can be sincere, and she can honestly say, with her experience of having met such a wide variety of people, that she likes people. And that's an interesting message, because typically all you ever hear about is how much we fucking hate everyone, which is stupid, because we don't. We pretend to hate all sorts of shit, but we don't like ignorance, and we don't like it when people don't treat us right. But I don't think we really dislike people, because when we get to know them as individuals, we tend to really like people. So we really like people and then pretend to just hate them because of just disagreements over subtle shits. Anyway, you can't say no to hope. You can't say no to happiness. I would rephrase that as you shouldn't say no to hope and you shouldn't say no to happiness. But I would also take the idea of hope and just say you should embrace faith that things will work out by taking an active role in creating it, and not maybe play on the more passive side of hope where you wait for things to kind of work out. It's just how I perceive those two words. But you can totally say no to happiness, but to embrace happiness is, in my opinion, a lot harder than to embrace the misery of the world. So I get where she's coming from. This is just that like feel good Björk, the world needs love anthem, and we know that that's the point of this, because in the chorus, I want to go to a mountaintop with a radio and good batteries and play a joyous tune and free the human race from suffering. It's like so fucking sincere, and like you can just like I kind of want to go on the mountaintop with the good radio and batteries too. It actually sounds like a really fucking good time. Play some dope ass music and erase suffering from the world. Like, honestly, it sounds like a really cool time. It's just a little bit like it comes off so corny, because every time people say shit like this, it's corny and disingenuous. But I think that Björk is absolutely sincere with it, and I think she recognized where she was going with it too, because she did something that really like sold it for me. I'm no fucking Buddhist. Letting you know that she's aware of how all this shit sounds, but she's a real fucking person by throwing in the word fuck into that line and saying, I'm not a fucking Buddhist, but this is enlightenment. Like, we all have to accept that maybe there is some truth in some of this shit, and if we want to achieve like a better place of an existence of being, you kind of need to embrace a little bit of a wiser way approach to life. Like, the less room you give me, the more space I've got. You know, like, I don't really understand that line, to be honest, but I guess it's just kind of saying, I don't really understand it. If y'all want to clarify that one or what your thoughts are, it's totally cool. I suppose it just kind of fits the theme of I'll make do and find more love and shit. Anyway, she really pulls it through in the third verse with, "This is an alarm call, so wake up now. Today has never happened and it doesn't frighten me. It doesn't scare me at all." And I guess what she's trying to say is like, look, the world that we're in, it doesn't have to be this way. We can maybe make different choices and create a whole new world. And this is my wake-up call that I am fully willing to admit that I believe love is the way through the future, and I'm not afraid to preach what I believe to be the truth. And I think she's really touching in to the part where it's scary to actually try to like live like that or to put out those kind of messagings, because you know that people are going to attack you, and you know that it's not cool. It really isn't. It's not cool to be positive. It's actually like perceived in a whole bunch of ways, like me calling her corny here. It's the same kind of shit, but she's not afraid of that because she knows that this is the truth, and I have to agree with her. As I go on my own personal quest for enlightenment to become less of an asshole in life and to become a kinder person in general, I've come to agree with what she's saying here. Your perspective and embracing the love of the world is super freaking important. But yeah, it's a cool song. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 on 5. It was like, I'm super positive but still gangsta as fuck, and I like that. Anyway, the next one on this album is called Pluto. It was on this song that I learned that Björk and I were both Scorpios. Not for any particular reason, but just somebody used a Scorpio mug in their annotation describing their interpretation of the song. So, first of all, the beat's fucking chaotic and intense and explosive and like almost a completely different genre than what we've experienced. So if you think about it, she's kind of gone through the breakup phase where she realizes that the lazy way in life is to be codependent, and then she's moved from that point on to all you need is love, and love is the powerful driving essence of the world. And then I believe that this is just like the build up to all of the emotions and everything, and she's literally just exploding. She's figured out the formula. She's ready to go off. And maybe there's almost an aggressive tint to the anxiety and the excitement that becomes attached to that as she's embracing herself and building up before like we get to the conclusion of the album. I literally saw that this could be interpreted as she drank too much and she's puking, she's masturbating and she's about to come, and something else about just emotions in general building up, which I suppose the ambiguity of it all could apply to those things, but I don't personally see the masturbation in the ooze. I'm not feeling that energy, but I guess it could be. Maybe I'm wrong. It is really ambiguous. Excuse me, but I just have to explode this body off me. I take it more on this energy force. So like, if we think about it, Björk is turning herself into a superhero. Look at that cover. Think about her goal of being the love warrior. So she's gone through this personal series of experiences of love and what it really means, only to discover the ethereal superpower that is love that will change the world and do everything good. And now we've come to this chaotic point, and it's the montage scene of like the movie where she gets like the cool series of superpowers and armors to go take on the whole like fucking enemies that she's got to take out. Like, check out the second verse. I'll be brand new tomorrow, a little bit tired but brand new, because she's gonna go to war decked out with love, kind of like the Powerpuff Girls and shit, which is still badass, and that's really cool. And then just the oohs in the chorus and shit as she's singing it out, it's just like explosive, and it is almost like when you don't have the words for it and you just have to express, like when you're in moments of extreme ethereal stuff of, I guess, orgasmic kind of moments. So I can see where people get that from, but I honestly take it more in the sense that she's supercharging her spiritual self into like going Super Saiyan in a sense. And this beat, this whole energy of this track is just the soundtrack to that explosion. She almost sheds off the old version of herself to totally embrace like what's to come and this war she's about to take on and the battles, the cultural fight that she wants to jump into. I think is fucking dope. I like to picture her as a superhero, I guess. Either way, it's a dope ass fucking song, and to me, it's kind of like her phoenix rise. It's where she sheds off the ashes of her former self and rises up ready to go in the context of the granular story of this album. And I do believe that that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that I at least think there's this granular story of exploration that's going on this project. It is all meant to be linked based on the title is what I'm taking, so I'm linking all that shit. Anyway, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it had a great energy to it, and it was super fucking cool to listen to. Like, it's the type of shit you can go to the gym and just like run to, because it's got this fucking cool energy. Anyway, the last one has a video full of robots shit, so it's called All Is Full of Love. You have poured your... Nah, like, for real, there's the Björk robot, and you can see like her mouth is superimposed on this robot, and she's like singing the lyrics out. And then there's another robot, and the robots make out and shit. So there's robot love happening here. Apparently this song was like one of the last ones done, written after most of the album had been ready, which is part of why it has like this serene, not so aggressive feel that the rest of the project has. But simultaneously, it really does its job then as serving its role as the closer, because now she's jacked up as a superhero ready to go and take on the world with her powers of love. We're kind of like ending on that everything in life fuels her energy, because everything in life is full of love. So look at these lyrics. You'll be given love, you'll be taken care of. You'll be given love, you have to trust it. Maybe not from the sources you have poured yours, maybe not from directions you're staring at. Twist your head around, it's all around you. All is full of love all around you. And then that really tells us a lot about what she's trying to communicate here. So this is the kind of pay it forward mentality where you give maybe to somebody. So you give Chuck $20 because Chuck's in need, and then Chuck never pays you back, and you're like, damn, Chuck's a fucking asshole, but you're looking at it wrong. Instead, when you give to Chuck, you're putting out, let's say, a $20 deficit into the energies of the world, and then later on in life, or maybe even it was earlier in life, at some other point, $20 had flowed into your life that came from another source. And if the world kind of takes on this pay it forward mentality of giving out the positive energies, knowing that in the grand scheme of things they'll be taken care of because other people and other sources and things that aren't maybe what they gave to are going to give back to them, you'll create like this beautiful understanding of how much love and positivity is actually going on all around you, instead of just, oh, well, I gave to that person and they didn't give back to me, so fuck them. So like I really like this. It reminds me of my experiences with God and trying to understand how God speaks to you and how things take care of you and how everything's so convoluted. Things just don't play out the way that you expect. But when you open your mind and you reflect and you think about the fact that like 8 or 9 unrelated sources give you the same piece of advice, there isn't some transcendental factor that's maybe connecting this idea through things that you're not expecting. Of course there is. There's some guiding force, in my opinion. Either way, I feel like she's trying to really emphasize that this is what her superpower has unlocked in her, is the ability to see this and to share it and to like pass it around. But all things considered, it's like this calmer, slower, I feel like it's a less engaging song. It's totally something where I feel like if you're really into the slower, more romantic side of music, you can put this on, and I could picture how other people would be like enveloped with all these emotional experiences of joy and shit. And myself, I get where it's coming from, and I'm like, yeah, this one's really well made, but not entirely my cup of tea. So I gave this a 4.25 for that reason. Really well made, not my cup of tea. Anyway, so I guess that brings us to the end of this project, where for the album, I gave Björk's Homogenic a 4.59 on 5. I really like this album. I don't know which I like the best so far, but I really think that this is a very cohesive album. It follows a core concept as we see this exploration of like a modern example of the complexities behind love and the drastic emotional shifts that you'll have with it, from the wanting to give yourself completely to somebody to the point where you can't take it anymore, to the point where you then reevaluate yourself and truly spend some time to build yourself up to the point where you're now capable of fully embracing love because you've learned how to actually see it and understand it. Meanwhile, the music is super layered. It doesn't sound like typical music that you would hear over in North America and shit. So it's got this kind of freshness to it. It's so well composed. The Wu-Tang Clan almost collaborated. By the Wu-Tang Clan, we mean RZA. So RZA almost collaborated on this album, but was distracted and wasn't able to actually do it in time. But I know that Björk and RZA have worked together before, so that's cool. Anyway, I think it's totally worth listening to. I mean, this Björk journey has been crazy. In like the last 2 months, I feel like Björk has exposed my mind to a lot of different ways to approach expression that a lot of people could benefit from like listening to. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Thank y'all for checking it out. I really like the fact that a couple of y'all are super excited for this series, and it motivates me to want to get through the rest of her albums as quick as I can, because I kind of like it when people get excited. So feel free to show that excitement and that love, as Björk would want, in that comment section. I will make that effort to respond to you if you make that effort to comment, as anybody who has commented can attest to. I really do appreciate it. Feel free to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content. I will get through the rest of Björk's albums, and then we'll figure out what comes next. And then, you can hit the like button too, because it tells YouTube some stuff. And a special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadamsi, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black Hurricanes, Lindell Williams, and Chris Prado. They support what we do. They helped us get a brand new camera. They get to see content before it's released sometimes. They get to tell us what albums to review. So it's a good time all around over there. And otherwise, I make music myself, so you can check that out on this channel, and I would love to hear your feedback on that as well. And I'll catch you soon with the next review.